Well, my name is Rich Thomas. I'm the former mayor of Mount Vernon, and I'm just providing some feedback on what's going on, what we're seeing in the news, what we're learning about the coronavirus. And it just seems to be bad news after bad news. But the big news is that this is the big fight. And as we gear up to keep fighting this big fight, know that there's a bigger fight waiting for us right after. And some weeks ago, I talked about how the coronavirus is coming to a city near you, possibly next door, and unfortunately, it hit home in a hard way for a number of people that I know. Some being some extended relatives, some being some just close friends. So I just want to give my condolences to Price Davenport, his family, the Rivers family. They lost a great aunt, Lulu, and another family member was lost during the same time period. While we know that this is a very, 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 very confusing time, know that this is a time where we have to lean into our faith and make sure that we keep lifting each other up in prayer, but also lifting each other up as much as we can to support one another through this crisis. And it is a global pandemic, and we've seen and we're continuing to see that this coronavirus is overwhelming systems, overwhelming our healthcare system, and the cases are going to continue to grow. And this is a chart that I'm showing right now of its exponential growth throughout the spread of the virus, and we're seeing more and more that this virus is not looking to go away anytime soon. There are a lot of questions that are being raised. I'm getting a lot of questions from people online as to, what do I think about the time frame of the shutdown, the school shutdown, when is life going to get back to normal? I'm hearing stories about people being illegally locked out of their homes, and people asking, what can be done to, stop these things from happening. Well, first, landlords need to know that it is illegal to try and evict or illegally lock someone out of their place of living. And we know that there are a lot of issues that need to be worked out, but that's where we have to keep insisting and encouraging our government representatives to keep, pushing forward, keep trying to make the positive changes that are needed to protect people. And one of the things that I do want to say, though, is that, for landlords that are being jerks, know that Judgment Day is coming, and that bad karma that you're putting out there, that bad energy, will be judged by a higher power, higher authority in due time. So just know that it's wrong, it's not humane, and you got to treat people right. So everybody just keep doing the right thing, keep pushing, keep praying, and knowing that this time right now, even though we're seeing some of the worst of humanity, we're also going to see the best of humanity. And I believe that God's will is playing out. I believe that God's wrath is also being demonstrated on those that have been greedy, that have been mean-spirited. I do believe that God's will continue to protect those that seek refuge in the Lord. But I also think that we have to be mindful that our faith will be tested in and out of faith. It will always be tested, especially now. So I just want to briefly touch upon, the healthcare workers. I want to say, everybody make sure you say your prayers for them. Our first responders, we have to support them every way we can, because we know that the medical supply shortages are real. Hopefully the factories can get back online quickly to provide the essential items that they need. It's a good move that the Defense Production Act was invoked, but we need to hopefully see that happen much more quickly. But a lot of people are asking, when is this going to be over? And we have to look backward to look forward. So I found this interesting article by the National Geographic on what cities did to flatten the curve during the 1918 flu pandemic. And it's a great read, it's a short read, but it also has some good graphics of what cities in their various curves that you hear about, what they did. And you saw that Philadelphia had a high curve, New York had a relatively low one, and New York had a lower curve because it took aggressive actions. It took a mixed variety of approaches to combat the pandemic in a way that caused New York City in particular to have such a lower curve than many others. And one of the things that I want to point out is the Spanish flu of 1918, you saw about 30,000 New Yorkers pass away. But look at these various spikes when you look at this graph. You see Philadelphia having among the highest, right there in the top left of the screen. And you look at Baltimore with a higher spike. And these numbers are per 100,000. But when you look at, Albany and New York City, over here toward the center right of the screen, New York had about 452 people per 100,000 pass away. Albany had a higher number. But I just want to zoom in on what they did. They did a mixture of things. They had healthcare networks and systems going all the way down to the neighborhood. They had communications. Back then, they didn't have the internet. Back then, they had, telephone, but it was very limited. So everyone, in terms of the modes of transportation, the speed at which things traveled was far different than it is today. Things move much more quickly today than in the past. So I just want to point out and emphasize that with the various modes of transportation, the pandemics can spread much more quickly. I don't see how governments can allow people to gather now. Even as much as we want to go back to church, it's going to be very hard to do that because the spread of this influenza, the coronavirus, is so fast and so rapid that it will harm large gatherings. So we're not going to see people coming back to gatherings for a period of time. And when you look at the history of the Spanish flu from 1918, you see there were 3 waves of it, and we're probably going to see the same thing here when it comes to the coronavirus. And what we need to do is we have to prepare ourselves for a variety of new normals. And those new normals include homeschooling, which is going to take a lot of patience on parents. Teachers, we miss you, we love you. But we definitely have to look at the types of investments we need to make now to make educating our kids a bit more convenient. We're seeing lots of different examples. I'm seeing a lot of teachers teach on Zoom, and I'm hoping that we can do that here in the city of Mount Vernon, which would be great. But again, we have work to do, and it's obvious that this work is being done. And I know that right now the schools look like, well, the schools are shut down through April 15th, but based on the history, based on the data that's available now, it looks like it's going to be much longer than we all expect. So my hope is that as we, move toward the various milestones, we look at the priorities collectively and we follow the best template we have, which is the Spanish flu of 1918, and we implement those systems upon systems of people working together in different ways in various networks, be it from volunteers for mental health, be it more people to help in hospitals or different types of hospitals for people with different types of ailments. For example, someone suffers from a broken bone or something, God forbid that happens. We have to create these different places for people to go. So as we continue to build out and ramp up over time, and a lot of people are worried about work, worried about mortgages, worried about rent. A lot of these different things, a lot of these issues will pop up and they will be addressed over time. The good news is there was a $2 trillion package that was passed as part 1. There will be more work done on that front. But in closing, in looking ahead, I will talk about some of these different things that we have to look out for. Like, what does it mean to the economy? The institutional systems failure. I'm going to touch upon these things in the next video to talk about what I believe public officials should be doing and should be thinking about, thinking much bigger than they're thinking right now, because as we pull together, we have to pull together around a common agenda and a common objective. And that common objective is looking at what has worked in the past and making sure that we apply it to our future. And think of the major public works jobs over the 1920s through the 30s and 40s. we're going to need to do the same exact thing. And I hope that from a local standpoint, from a regional standpoint, even a state standpoint, we can get to look ahead and create that future that we always wanted by aspiring for it right now. So everybody just hang in there, hunker down, know that it is going to be a real challenge, and know that cities can play a role in flattening the curve. You can do your part too. But I just want to point out this one final thing, something that's been breaking my heart, knowing that that in my home city, Mount Vernon, this image that I'm showing you right now is of 109 cases, 26 at a nursing home, and we know of at least 4 people that have passed away, 5, including Lulu. Sorry, Lulu, for your loss. This is just, God is calling some angels for a different fight, I guess. But I do know that this number of 109 cases is up to 188 cases right now, and it's just breaking my heart that that people in a nursing home are being impacted by this. And I'm going to reach out to some business executives, some businesses that I know, to see if we can do something to try and help out some of the nursing homes here in Mount Vernon, some of the seniors, because it's all hands on deck. So know that right now that the key is this is God's will and also God's wrath. We got to keep lifting up in prayer. I say consult Psalm 91. I think that's a very important psalm for this moment. But just know that this is always going to be a test of faith during this pandemic. God bless all those on the front lines, the health workers, the first responders. God bless our public officials who are, fighting the good fight right now. And know that this is the big fight. There's a bigger one waiting. But right now, let's focus on winning this big one in a big way. God bless, and everybody hang in there. The next video is coming up soon.